The Detroit Lions locker room is reportedly in chaos after a standoff with Jack Campbell ended with him being escorted out of the facility. The clash came after the team pushed through a $22 million restructuring, while ignoring his extension request, leaving him feeling blindsided despite being a leader on defense. Now here's what's really raising questions. Campbell reportedly pointed out a hidden clause in his contract that could allow the team to cut injured players without pay. On April 28, 2026, Detroit Lions broadcaster Dan Miller broke the news that sent shockwaves through the NFL. The Lions declined the fifth-year option on Campbell's current contract. That option would have applied to the 2027 NFL season, meaning Campbell is only under contract now for the 2026 campaign. This is a player who, just months earlier, was named the best linebacker in the NFL. After 3 excellent years with the Detroit Lions, former Iowa football All-American linebacker Jack Campbell was presented the 2025 Pro Butkus Award. The award is given annually to the NFL's top linebacker and bestows the namesake of the late great Chicago Bears and Pro Football Hall of Fame linebacker Dick Butkus. And this wasn't some borderline case. Campbell secured the award over San Francisco 49ers linebacker Fred Warner, Baltimore Ravens linebacker Roquan Smith, and Philadelphia Eagles linebacker Zach Baun, who was last season's winner. Let me put Campbell's 2025 season in perspective. Campbell ranked second in the NFL last season with 176 tackles. The 6'5", 246-pound linebacker also added 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 4 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Those are career highs across the board. That performance earned him first-team All-Pro honors and a Pro Bowl nod. And in his 3-year NFL career, Campbell has registered 402 tackles, 10 passes defended, 8.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. He's also played in all 51 regular season games over the last 3 seasons, starting 46, durability and dominance. That's the combination every NFL franchise dreams of. So what did the Lions do with this franchise cornerstone? They decided he wasn't worth $22 million guaranteed for 2027. Now, on the same day, the Lions exercised the 5th-year option on running back Jahmyr Gibbs. The move fully guarantees Gibbs $14.293 million for 2027 cents. So one 2023 first-round pick gets his guaranteed money. The other, the one who just won the Butkus Award, does not. The question isn't whether Jack Campbell is elite. Everyone agrees he is. Lions general manager Brad Holmes has repeatedly included Campbell in the list of players he hopes to keep in Detroit for a long time. The question is whether Detroit's salary cap math and an absurd NFL rule about linebacker valuations just created a fracture that could send one of the best defensive players in football out the door. And to understand how we got here, you need to understand the man before he was a Lion. Jack Campbell was not born into football royalty. He came from Cedar Falls, Iowa, a small city where he became a multi-sport standout before anyone in the NFL knew his name. Campbell attended Cedar Falls High School in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And while football was always in the picture, he was also a dominant basketball player. As a junior and senior, he led Cedar Falls to back-to-back 4A state basketball championships in 2018 and 2019. That kind of athletic versatility, the footwork, the spatial awareness, the competitive fire on a basketball court would later translate into a linebacker who moved differently from anyone else at his position. On the football field at Cedar Falls, Campbell was a wrecking ball. During his football career, he had a school record 338 career tackles. He committed to the University of Iowa, and what happened there became the foundation for everything that followed. Campbell's progression at Iowa was the textbook definition of a slow build to dominance. As a true freshman at Iowa in 2019, Campbell played in 11 games and had 5 tackles. Just 5. He was a raw, developing talent, absorbing the system. Under head coach Kirk Ferentz, a coach Campbell would later speak about with deep reverence. At the 2023 NFL Combine, Campbell said of Ferentz, "There's no one in college football like him. I owe him a lot, and I'm forever grateful for him giving me opportunities." By 2021, Campbell wasn't just contributing. He was leading the entire nation. He ranked first in the nation with 143 tackles in 2021. He started in 14 games and led the FBS with 143 tackles, while adding 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and 1.0 sack. For context, 143 tackles ranks 5th best in a single season at Iowa, and rank as most in a season since 2009. Then came 2022, the year Campbell went from great to historic. Campbell led the elite Iowa defense in 2022 to a nationwide best in yards per play average and top 5 in total defense and defensive efficiency. Campbell finished the regular season with 118 tackles, ranking second in the Big Ten and tied for 13th nationally, adding 2 interceptions, 1 recovered fumble, and 1 forced fumble. The clutch plays were there too. Against Minnesota, Campbell's forced fumble and long interception return, both in the fourth quarter, enabled Iowa's victory. Despite being outgained and having much less time of possession, the awards cascaded in. Following the season, Campbell was given the 2022 Butkus Award as the top linebacker in college football, as well as the William V. Campbell Trophy as a scholar athlete. He was also named the Big Ten's Nagurski-Woodson Defensive Player of the Year and Butkus Fitzgerald Linebacker of the Year. For the first time, an Iowa Hawkeye won the Butkus Award as college football's top linebacker. Kirk Ferentz described his star in vivid terms. He called Campbell's skill set unusual, just his height and range, and noted that Campbell was likely the tallest linebacker in the program's history over the previous 23 years. But more than physical gifts, Ferentz highlighted Campbell's character. He's extremely humble. He's not about taking credit for anything. When the 2023 NFL Draft rolled around, Campbell was ready. Campbell was selected with the 18th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft by the Detroit Lions. He was the second of Detroit's 2 first-round picks that year. The Lions picked twice in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. The Lions drafted Gibbs 12th overall in the 2023 draft and Campbell 18th. Campbell signed a 4-year, $14,722,004 contract with the Detroit Lions, including a $7,076,912 signing bonus and $14,722,004 guaranteed. At the time, it seemed like a bargain for a player of his caliber. 3 years later, that assessment would prove prophetically correct, and that's precisely where the problems began. When Jack Campbell arrived in Detroit, he walked into a franchise experiencing something it hadn't tasted in decades: genuine hope. The 2023 Lions were not just good, they were revelatory. The Lions improved upon their 9-8 record from the previous season. The Lions finished the regular season with a 12-5 record, tying a franchise record for wins. After a Week 16 win against the Minnesota Vikings, the Lions won their first division title since 1993 and their first ever as a member of the NFC North. Campbell was part of that surge from day one. Campbell and Branch became key contributors to Detroit's defense. Campbell had 95 tackles and 2 sacks while playing in all 17 regular season games. For a rookie linebacker, 95 tackles in 17 games is a statement, the kind of production that tells a coaching staff this player is ready to be built around. The Lions' magical 2023 season carried them all the way to the NFC Championship game. The Lions defeated the Buccaneers 31-23 to advance to the NFC Championship for the first time since the 1991 season. However, they yielded a 24-7 lead and lost in the NFC Championship game to the San Francisco 49ers 34-31. That gut-wrenching collapse would fuel the franchise going forward, and Campbell, still just a rookie, had already proven he belonged at the heart of their defense. In 2024, the Lions doubled down on their ambitions, storming to one of the best regular seasons in franchise history with a 15-2 record. Gibbs' phenomenal second year coincided with the Lions' best regular season in franchise history, as they finished 15-2. Campbell continued his steady ascent in year 2, laying the groundwork for the seismic breakout that would come the following season. But 2025, that's when Jack Campbell transformed from very good to the best. The Lions' defense was battered by injuries throughout the season. In 2025, Campbell played a pivotal role for the Lions, who were again ravaged by injuries to many of their star defensive players. Campbell stepped into the chaos and turned it into his coronation. Campbell thrived in a career year in 2025, during which he set personal bests in tackles, 176 TFL, 9 sacks, 5, and forced fumbles, 3, en route to his first Pro Bowl selection and All-Pro nod. The Butkus Award Selection Committee couldn't have been clearer in their praise. Jack Campbell embodies everything the Butkus Award represents. His size, instincts, and disciplined approach to the position allow him to control the middle of the field. They specifically noted his leadership and football character as defining traits of his dominance. Campbell now became the first Hawkeye to capture both the collegiate and Pro Butkus Awards. a distinction that places him in rarefied historical territory. An Iowa legend who conquered both college and professional football at his position. But here's the cruel irony. The very Pro Bowl selection that validated Campbell's brilliance simultaneously created the financial earthquake that would threaten his future in Detroit. Campbell's ascent to being a Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro in 2025 was a great development for the Lions defense, but it would cost the Lions millions in cap space if they picked up his fifth-year option. Had he not made the Pro Bowl in 2025, the cap hit for his fifth-year option would have been around $15.1 million. But since he did, the projected value of his fifth-year option was a market-topping $21.9 million. In other words, Jack Campbell played so well that he priced himself out of his own team's financial comfort zone. And the reason that number ballooned to nearly $22 million has everything to do with one of the most flawed loopholes in the NFL's collective bargaining agreement. To understand why the Lions declined Campbell's fifth-year option, you have to understand a peculiarity in the NFL's financial structure that has frustrated teams and players for years. It's a quirk so absurd that it borders on a glitch in the system, and Jack Campbell is its latest, most high-profile victim. Here's the mechanism. Under the collective bargaining agreement, off-ball linebackers like Campbell are lumped into the same position as pass-rushing outside linebackers who can make up to double what the league's best off-ball linebackers are making. The price of a player's fifth-year options is determined by his draft slot, the position he plays, and the number of Pro Bowls that player has reached in his first 3 seasons. So when the NFL calculates a fifth-year option for a linebacker, it doesn't distinguish between a player like Campbell, who operates in the middle of the field diagnosing run fits and dropping into coverage zones, and an edge rusher whose entire job is to terrorize quarterbacks off the edge. These are fundamentally different positions with fundamentally different market values, yet the CBA treats them as one and the same. CBS Sports' Joel Corey laid it out plainly. The value of Campbell's fifth-year option increased by $6.801 million, from $15.1224 million to $21.925 million. He further explained that the $21.925 million cost doesn't reflect the off-ball linebacker market. That's because pass rushing 3 to 4 outside linebackers primarily determine the number. The math becomes staggering when you break it down. Campbell would have been owed $22 million for the 2027 season on that option year. And there isn't an off-ball linebacker that makes that money. Detroit was set to incur a $21.9 million cap hit by picking up Campbell's option, which would immediately have made him the highest-paid off-ball linebacker in the league. For comparison, the highest-paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL is Fred Warner, who signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the 49ers at an average annual value of $21 million. Campbell's fifth-year option would have eclipsed even Warner's annual earnings, not because Campbell is necessarily more valuable than Warner, but because the formula is fundamentally broken. Unfortunately for Campbell, the NFL continues to group off-ball LBs and pass-rushing LBs together for valuation purposes. Teams do not value them equally, evidenced by the fact that no club has picked up an off-ball LB's option since the Buccaneers did it for Devin White in 2022. That's a 4-year drought, 4 years where every single team in the NFL has refused to activate this mechanism for middle linebackers because the price is artificially inflated by edge rusher salaries. The parallel that analysts keep pointing to is the Baltimore Ravens' situation with center Tyler Linderbaum. The Ravens found themselves in a similar situation 2 years ago with center Tyler Linderbaum. Similar to linebackers, all offensive linemen are lumped into the same position category, and Linderbaum's option would have factored into account the higher salaries of offensive tackles. The Ravens declined Linderbaum's option, and what happened next should terrify Lions fans. Linderbaum signed a 3-year, $81 million deal with the Las Vegas Raiders that made him the highest-paid center in NFL history. At $27 million annually, Linderbaum's deal is worth substantially more than Creed Humphrey's average annual value of $18 million per season. The Ravens let Linderbaum walk, and he reset the center market elsewhere. The Lions are now staring at that exact same possibility with Campbell. Lions president Rod Wood acknowledged the impossible position the team was in. He explained, "Jack's situation is unique because his fifth-year option and franchise tags get outrageous, with him making the Pro Bowl, and linebackers are linebackers." That sentence, "linebackers are linebackers," captures the frustration perfectly. Under the NFL's rules, the fact that Campbell plays inside linebacker is irrelevant. His option price is set by edge rushers who make twice what he'd make on the open market. And GM Brad Holmes was noticeably cagey when pressed on the matter after the draft. "Yeah, we're still having those discussions and trying to see what we're going to do," Holmes told reporters, "but we're having open dialogue. Once we get them executed, you guys will be the first ones to know." When asked specifically about Campbell's option being so expensive, Holmes simply repeated himself. That kind of non-answer from a general manager is never a good sign. So here we are. Campbell is now set to become a free agent next year. Unless he signs an extension, the Lions have publicly stated they want to keep him. Dan Miller reported that the Lions absolutely consider Campbell part of their plans going forward, and that the team will look to work out a long-term deal that makes sense for both sides. But here's the uncomfortable reality lurking beneath those reassuring words. By declining to pick up Campbell's fifth-year option, the two sides can come to an agreement that generates a lower cap hit for 2027 while still paying Campbell his worth, which after last season is a potentially market-resetting price. That phrase, market resetting, is the key. Detroit wants to pay Campbell on their terms, at a number that works within their salary cap structure. But Campbell, armed with an all-pro season, a Butkus Award, and the knowledge that he'll hit unrestricted free agency in less than a year, holds enormous leverage. The clock is ticking for Detroit in a way it isn't ticking for Campbell. The financial pressure on the Lions is immense and comes from multiple directions simultaneously. Campbell, tight end Sam Laporta, and safety Brian Branch are among Lions' core players, who are due to reach free agency next year. The Lions have said time and time again this offseason that the intention is to keep all of their first 4 draft picks from the 2023 class. Gibbs, Campbell, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch. 4 foundational players from one draft class, all needing massive extensions in the same window. Detroit already committed significant resources to wide receiver Amon-Ra, St. Brown's blockbuster deal, and traded David Montgomery to Houston. Detroit signed RB Isaiah Pacheco and DJ Wonnum for depth on both sides of the team. The question becomes whether there's enough pie for everyone, and history suggests that someone usually gets left out. It shouldn't be a surprise if Campbell demands a top-notch deal, and while it's deserved, it might not work in their long-term financial plans. The Lions went 9-8 last season and missed the playoffs. Detroit's 2-year reign at the top of the NFC North came to a close this past season, and despite a 9-8 record, the Lions missed clinching a berth in the NFL playoffs. That regression adds a layer of complexity. If the Lions stumble again in 2026, the calculus changes dramatically. The Lions are hoping that they can work something out, but the fact that they declined his 5th-year option means all options are on the table. And when reporters say all options, they mean trade options too. Multiple teams are already circling. Many teams are expected to line up for the former Iowa standout if he becomes a free agent next year. The Dallas Cowboys, who have been desperate for linebacker help, are considered a potential landing spot. If it's the same old story for the Cowboys' defense, they just might have to take on that risk on a young talent like Campbell to give them a physical linebacker. The Kansas City Chiefs are another possibility. The Chiefs lost Leo Chenal, which leaves Cole Christensen needing to step up. They still have Drew Tranquill and Nick Bolton, but one more superstar to help Chris Jones and the defensive line won't hurt. Campbell would arguably be the best replacement for this Chiefs defense. Meanwhile, the loss of Alex Anzalone in free agency should put Campbell in the spotlight to thrive even more in 2026. With Anzalone now in Tampa Bay on a 2-year deal, Campbell becomes the unquestioned leader of the Lions' linebacker core. If he puts up another elite season, another 170-plus tackle, Pro Bowl caliber campaign, his market value will only increase, and Detroit's leverage will only decrease. The precedent set by Linderbaum's departure from Baltimore should haunt Detroit's front office. The Ravens thought they could work out a long-term deal. They couldn't, and they watched their homegrown star sign a record-breaking contract elsewhere. Had the Lions exercised the 5th-year option on Campbell's contract, they would have set the stage for him to receive a long-term deal worth substantially more than the 3-year, $63 million extension Warner signed with the San Francisco 49ers. Brad Holmes has historically preferred to get extensions done early. Holmes typically likes to get such deals done as soon as possible, knowing that the price will only go up the longer he waits. But last year showed cracks in that approach. Last season, the Lions got deals done with their 2022 first-rounders a bit late, waiting until just before Week 1 to sign wide receiver Jameson Williams, and waiting until late October to re-sign edge Aiden Hutchinson. If those deals were a bit late, a Campbell extension that drags into the regular season, or worse, doesn't materialize at all, would be a full-blown crisis for a franchise that has built its identity around retaining homegrown talent. The bottom line is this: Jack Campbell is a 25-year-old, first-team All-Pro linebacker who has not missed a single game in 3 NFL seasons. He won the Butkus Award in college and the Pro Butkus Award in the pros. He recorded 176 tackles, 5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles in 2025. He is the defensive heartbeat of a Lions franchise that has aspirations of returning to championship contention. And that franchise just told him, through their actions, if not their words, that he's not worth the guaranteed money. Whether that decision was driven by financial prudence or the absurdity of the CBA's linebacker loophole is ultimately irrelevant to Campbell. The message has been sent. The clock is now running. And if the Lions can't get a deal done before Campbell hits the open market, Detroit won't just lose a player. They'll lose the player who held their defense together. When everything else was falling apart, the only question remaining is whether Brad Holmes and the Lions front office can turn this financial chess match into a long-term partnership, or whether Jack Campbell becomes the next great Detroit talent who got away.